Let's go over these two questions. Question number 1, use trig identities to simplify. Remember, it's not an identity because there's no equal sign, so you can change them into sine and cosines, or if you see other identities. I see a 1 and something to the power of 2. If you had your formula sheet out, that's the... Which identity? The Pythagorean identity. Pythagorean identity is sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. I want this to look like 1 minus cosine, so I'm going to subtract cosine. Every time I see 1 minus cosine squared, I can write
Sine
squared. If you had to explain to someone, what does sine squared mean?
Sine times sine.
Sine times sine. What is tangent? Sine over cosine. So my sines cancel. Remember, it's multiplication. You can cancel factors. I'm left with 1 over sine, 1 over cosine times sine. 1 over cosine is secant by the reciprocal identity, and 1 over sine is cosecant. When do you know when to stop? Well, no fractions are generally good. So they're just using my identities. Question number 2. Find all solutions of the following equations in the interval between 0 and 2 pi. If I subtract 1 from both sides, 2 cosine x minus cosine x minus 1 equals 0. Pretend the problem basically says 2x squared minus x minus 1 equals 0. For me, I'm going to use the x in the box method to factor. A times c is negative 2. B value is negative 1. My two numbers are 2 and 1. Which one's negative? Negative 2. So now I have negative 2x, 1x. This goes into the first box. You can do this with cosine, but I'll just do it without the trig function. So 2x squared and then a minus 1. So if I factor this, I'm going to get 2x, x. This will be a plus 1, and this will be a minus 1. So to factor this, I have 2 cosine x plus 1. So I'm just putting the cosine back in. And then cosine x minus 1 equals 0. I'm going to set each of those expressions equal to 0. And then I'm going to solve, so I'm going to subtract 1, divided by 2, cosine of x equals negative 1/2. This one will be cosine of x equals 1. I think to myself, where's cosine negative? And it's positive in these two quadrants, therefore it's going to be negative in these two quadrants. Cosine is the first order pair. So 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. So down here and here. So this is 4 pi over 6, 2 pi over 3. So x is equal to 2 pi over 3. And down here, this one is going to be, this is 9 pi over 6, so 8 pi over 6, so 4 pi over 3. And where is cosine 1? This location, which is 0. So our x value are these 3. Notice how these 3 answers are between our interval of 0 to 2 pi. So factor. You could also use quadratic formula to get your answers of negative 1/2 and positive 1. That's also another way of solving the problem. Just put factor trig function.